When you heard Netanyahu's big speech last night showing off tens of thousands of top-secret Iranian nuclear weapons files stolen by Mossad agents, he wasn't clear then about how exactly the spy operation went down. You may have reasonably thought, well, maybe Israeli spies stole the data with a flash drive that was plugged into the right computer. Or maybe it was cyber hacking and the files were downloaded and printed, here in Israel. Maybe it wasn't as dramatic as, Israeli spies literally breaking into a safe in Tehran and walking out with a half-ton worth of documents. But that is exactly what happened. According to the New York Times, they report Mossad agents broke into the warehouse in Tehran's Shurabad district early this year, removed the documents, smuggled them back to Israel the same night, a half-ton of pages. That's heavier than a grand piano, heavier even than a thoroughbred racehorse. And Israeli spies stole these pages from right under the Iranian regime's nose. Joining me now to talk about this daring operation, I have defense correspondent Shai Ben-Ari and Iranian political analyst and lecturer Meir Javedanfar. Shai, let me start with you just because we're learning more details about the operation itself. A spy agency stole sensitive documents from an enemy nation, a foreign government in that nation's capital. Why are they not being more tight-lipped about it, keeping it more secretive? Why go on the offensive like this? What's the message?
Right. Well, according to the sources quoted in the New York Times, at least, the sources have not been compromised. That's perhaps debatable. But certainly there is an advantage when you present evidence in this way. First of all, there's a psychological impact. You're, again, displaying, let's say, the long arm of Israeli intelligence, and that maybe sends a message to Iran, look, we're monitoring you today. We've always been monitoring you. We have the ability to continue to monitor you, even when you think you're protected. There's also, I would think, a question of credibility. This kind of evidence, when Netanyahu says this is the physical evidence, the hard copies, the actual folders and actual CDs, there's no suspicion that perhaps there's a certain sort of doctoring of imagery. Perhaps you could still suspect certain things even in this kind of situation, but they want to say this is the original hard copy and not anything in between.
Mayor, we're hearing reaction from Iran and several Iranian officials about the Netanyahu speech and the intelligence that was gathered therein. But really, what does Iran think about the actual raid itself? Are they denying that Israeli spies cracked safes, broke into a warehouse, and walked out with tens of thousands of documents? Isn't that hugely embarrassing?
Well, they're not saying anything about it, and I can understand. First of all, if it's true, it's hugely embarrassing, but forgive me for being a bit skeptical about Mossad saying exactly what they did, because there was this story that they said how they got information on the Syrian nuclear reactor, that there was a Syrian official in a hotel that went to his laptop. Do you really, because by revealing these things, you're making your life difficult for the next time.
So anyway, even if it's true or not true or somewhere in the middle, it's a psychological
It's
attack?
a psychological attack, but at the end of the day, this is not what interests the Iranian. Today, what the people of Iran are far more worried about is that the Telegram app has been blocked. 40 million Iranians use it. It's used extensively for business, by businesses, for people. That's a much bigger story than the Mossad story.